This is what happens when you start to run just a little bit too fast at the start of a park run. Kia ora team, I'm Coach Ray. I'm a running coach who specialises in coaching beginner and recreational athletes to achieve their sporting as well as their health and fitness goals. And in this park run progress report, we're going to look at my performance in the Pegasus park run number 477 on the 21st of March 2026, where I finished with a time of 21:48. Now, I had a slightly aggressive start, well managed overall, and if we look at the splits, you'll see that I did basically a 4:18 in the first, 4:25 in the second, in the third kilometre, 4:27, 4:41, and then this final split here, my average pace was 4:22 for the final 900 metres. What stands out immediately is the first kilometre is the fastest. There's a mid-race dip in that fourth kilometre, a significant one actually, and I still had enough lift late to run that faster pace again. It's not a blow up, it's a mild pacing imbalance. Now, if we look at the power data from this, now this is from my stride. You can see I don't have easy breakdowns because the distance here is 3.63, and then we've got to find 4.63 for the next one, and so on as we make our way through. But I've gone through and analyzed all this power data. So roughly these ones here, there, and there, or to there anyway. The power tells the real story. The first kilometre had an average power of 423 watts. The second kilometre was down slightly to 411 watts. Third kilometre, 412 watts, so stable. Fourth kilometre was 389 watts, so dropping back down. And then the fifth kilometre was back up to that stable 413 watts. Now that is the key insight. I didn't just run faster early, I spent more energy early. That 423 watts delivered in that first kilometre, that is clearly above my sustainable race power. I then settle into 411 to 412 watts, and then I drop significantly in the fourth kilometre, 389 watts. I rebound late for 413 watts in the final kilometre. That pattern is classic. Early overcommitment, compensation, recovery, and then finish. We can have a look on the Strava as well, and we can see the movement around the course. But if we dial into this fourth kilometre, between there and there, around the back of the lake, 4:41 is the pace, and that stands out. But importantly, it's not random. It's not terrain driven because the course is basically flat. It's not mechanical breakdown. It's the physiological cost of my fast start. The drop in power, 389 watts, confirms it. I didn't just slow, I had to reduce power output. And that's where I was lost. The positive sign, I could still finish strong, lifting the pace again for this final roughly kilometre. My pace returned to a 4:23 pace. My power was back to 413 watts. My heart rate climbed to a peak, 175 average, 181 max. My cadence rose 174 average, and that tells us I was not running on empty. I still had capacity, and I was able to re-engage. That's huge because it means my limiter wasn't my fitness. It was a pacing distribution. If we look at my heart rate profile, the red line here, it was slightly front loaded. Rapid climb up, 153 in the first kilometre, 168 in the second, 174 in the third, dropped slightly, 171, and then up to 175 for the final kilometre. What's interesting is that rapid rise. I had then a plateau dip in the fourth kilometre, and you can barely make it out with the eyeball, and then peaked late. That dip in the fourth kilometre aligns perfectly with the reduced power and reduced pace. So again, I backed off because I needed to, not because I chose to. Now my cadence, the yellow line in here, was pretty stable, and that's one of the key strengths of this run. It was mostly 171 to 174 average and peaks. So we look there, 173, 172, 171, and 174 to round out. And it slightly rising towards the end. And that's excellent. It tells us that my mechanics held together. There was no overstriding, no breakdown under fatigue. So again, not a form issue, not a strength issue, purely pacing and energy distribution. Now the course, that was a 2-lap course around the lake, across this bridge here. The lake does continue around, and then repeat for a second lap. The 2-lap structure can subtly influence the pacing. Lap 1 is fresh and flowing. Lap 2, mentally harder, slightly slower. But the data doesn't suggest that this was the primary issue. The bigger factor is still how hard I ran that opening kilometre. What this performance really is, let's start with what it's not. It's not a bad run. It's not a fitness issue, and it's not a lack of strength. This is a good run that's leaving time on the table through poor pacing. What changes the result? If we were to adjust one thing, and that is this opening kilometre, if I back that off from the 418 that it was to a 422 or a 424, sort of there or thereabouts, what will likely happen? The power will sit a lot lower, about that 410 to 412 watts from the start. The fourth kilometre doesn't drop to 441, maybe a 428 or a 430 instead, and then the final segment is still strong. That alone probably brings me 10 to 20 seconds faster overall. The key takeaway is I didn't run out of fitness. I ran slightly ahead of it early, and if you're in a similar place, that's a great place to be because it's easily fixable. Overall assessment, this performance is best described as strong execution with one pacing leak early that cost me late in the event. The positives, strong finish, stable cadence, and good ability to re-engage. Solid race power, and the opportunity is a slightly more restraint in the first kilometre to see a faster finish. So run your first kilometre like you want to feel in your fourth kilometre. Now, if we look at the results, we'll see Willem Young finished third. You can see a previous parkrun progress report for him setting his PB on the Pegasus parkrun course. And also Jason Ford, one of my athletes, he ran on my shoulder. He had a more conservative race than me to finish, or he pushed past me at the start of the second lap and surged on and got his 5K PB. Keep an eye out for a parkrun progress report next week for him and his performance. Don't just run your parkrun, race it. Let the parkrun kickstart plan, and I'll help you perform your best week after week.